you. Good morning, almost afternoon. I have David Wechsler, founding executive with Comcast, and also Assaf, the CEO of Hippo. So welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So let's start with just very basic, Assaf. Walk us through Hippo's business model. Who are your customers, and how do you make money?
That's okay, wow. In short, Hippo is a company that's focused on modernizing homeowner insurance. And for us, modernizing homeowner insurance is refocusing back on the customer. It's an industry that kind of forgot who's the customer. The customer was the agent and not the end customer. The end customer is called, a policyholder, which just show you the dichotomy in this thing. So for us, modernizing homeowner insurance is refocusing on the customer and shifting from what insurance is today, which is reactive, to move it to proactive. It's reactive because you basically have one-time underwriting is when you purchase the property, and you have your only touch point with a standard insurance company is when you have a claim after an average of 8 to 9 years. And we thought that this entire time, we should refocus back on the customer. We should help with prevention. We should give IoT devices. We should keep using the big data sources that we have, like aerial imagery and all kind of stuff like that will helping you in basically answering all of the questions. But we should use them constantly to shift basically underwriting from being a reactive one-time thing to a proactive and constantly keep on monitoring your house.
Okay. And David, tell us about your role at Comcast and why did Comcast decide to enter the home insurance industry?
Sure. So when we started the home insurance agency about 1.5 years ago, we were really looking at opportunities to expand on our technology footprint. For those of you not familiar with Comcast, we've got about 29 million customers. We're one of the leading providers of video and internet services. We also recently acquired Sky overseas for another, I believe, 20 million customers. But at the core of that, we've got about 35 million between the two businesses, customers that rely on us for internet services. And the thesis was not to become a distribution point for insurance as much as leverage the killer use case of insurance for connected home. So we went out to the market to look at which insurance companies were kind of focusing on smart home and connected home and the opportunity that the connected world might bring. And we were very fortunate to find Hippo and build a partnership both through investment and distribution of the product. But the core focus of the insurance efforts and our partnership with Hippo is really built on a belief that smart home will be pretty much ubiquitous and that a tech player like a Comcast has a lot to offer in that value chain.
Okay. And one of the key benefits of Hippos is its use of artificial intelligence and how quickly and efficiently you can provide home insurance. Customers get quotes, I think, 60 seconds or less. So what other insurers also use AI. So can you tell us how what you're doing is unique and different from what they're doing?
Sure. There are two main differences that we see. The first one is the usage of data in real time. So you can run on the back a lot of stuff and use whatever machine learning and deep data kind of components you have. But we're doing a lot of these things on the front end. So when we're evaluating a customer risk, we're doing it with pools that are real time. We're not waiting 60 days after the kind of tentative bind to check all of these data points with regard to the customer. So everything is done in real time. The second thing is that we're using the same data sources and all of this AI to constantly evaluate the risk. So I'll give you some example. We're using aerial imagery, and I'm sure several other insurers are using aerial imagery. We actually use 2 or 3 of these sources to potentially see what's the quality of your roof and if you have a swimming pool and stuff like that. Now, we're not just doing it once for the underwriting. We keep on monitoring your house all the time. Whenever we have a data pool of aerial imagery, we run your house query on that. And if we see that, for instance, you had a swimming pool, we're going to reach out and say, Janna, we just saw that you had a swimming pool, wanted to confirm it. If yes, I think you should increase your liability insurance. So that's one side. But the other side, if you actually replace your roof, you're entitled to a discount. And we're going to tell you that stuff as well, because we think that the purpose of one of the biggest problems in insurance is that 64% of the US population is underinsured after 3 to 5 years. And your home is probably your biggest financial asset. And if you are underinsured, then your financial viability is at risk. So we're making sure that you're constantly insured for the stuff that you should be insured. All of this is done in real time. So that's one side. The other stuff is that we're we had to build the entire stack to able to accommodate doing all of this thing in real time. Even on our IoT devices that we're using now, we need to get basically a live signal if it's connected or not. That connected automatically to our policy management system, which alert our service department and whatever else is needed to basically see if a customer have a problem or not, and then we're going to send them a replacement, and all of that kind of stuff. Everything is done in real time, and not just as a separated component where the AI is happening on the back end just to basically figure out the new rate plans and stuff like that. It's all uniform and all across.
And you were talking about the data sources that you use. One of them is imaging. What about when it comes to, how did you know I have a new pool, for example?
So new pool is actually, imaging is good for that.
That's true.
It's not very difficult, but permit records, transactional records, tax records. In today's world, of internet and what's out there, there's a ton of data sources out there. The idea is what data sources we can actually pull in, plug, synthesize, and bring value back to the customer. That's how we look at it.
I see. Okay. And when it comes to data privacy, what are your concerns there, and what are how can you make consumers feel like they're not sharing too much, or you're getting too much about them?
Sure, I can start with that. So in the world of data privacy and data itself, obviously an internet provider like ourselves has access to quite a bit, and also believes that we have an opportunity to be a partner to the consumer and kind of help the consumer pick and choose what data they do share. I'll let Assaf talk about the data sets that we use today, but our relationship with the customer is highly guarded. Pieces of data that we provide, we see ourselves as an enabler of the consumer to kind of share that data in a private way. And we see other businesses like Assaf's interest in helping the customer by allowing them to use that data for discounts or for better coverage. We'd love to play a role in that. It's nascent. There's still a ways to go before we're sharing deep levels of data, but we see ourselves as a perfect partner in that kind of value exchange to, again, kind of protect the customer, help them understand what they can give up, and facilitate that process of transferring the data to a partner like Hippo.
Yeah, so most of the data sources that we're using are publicly available. Mm-hmm. It's out there, and you can aggregate, and you can spend time in finding all of these things yourself. Like, I think all of us at one point looked at Google Maps or Google, and then look at your house and see where it's there. It's not new. I'm not, doing any NSA-like kind of things on that. It's relatively there. It's about aggregating, cleaning up, and basically focusing back on the customers. And the stuff that people potentially fear are actually the IoT device, and even the IoT device that we're using. We're actually not gathering a lot of data. The only data that we actively basically pull is if the device is on, and then we get like a sign of life every several weeks, and that's the only thing that I need, and I need it for compliancy because we are one of the only carriers that was approved and filed and approved for smart home discounts, and this is, in order for me to maintain Janna's discount, I need to basically report to the Department of Insurance that it's connected. The rest of the stuff is actually, these are self-monitored. So the fact that you have a leak, it actually sends it to Janna and not to us. And we're constantly in discussions whether we can add more value, but actually, sending you, do you need a plumber and stuff like that. It's an ongoing discussion, but so far we haven't gone that track.
So a lot of insurers are dipping their toes into the smart home insurance, but haven't decided to fully commit to it. Why do you think some insurers are cautious in this area?
I think you need a uniform, strong conviction and decision from the top down. Dipping the toes is not how you make a change and a difference. You need to commit. And you need to commit. Every customer of Hippo, and I mean everyone, is actually getting a smart home kit now. And if you're actually a Comcast user, that is a Hippo customer, you get even more sensors in the home that Comcast is helping us with. It's about making sure that the entire stack can accommodate that. So, the policy management system, the claims system is familiar with that. The service is expecting a call that someone's going to ask them about IoT. It's about fulfillment. It's about filing, and which is not easy. If you're a company which has 10 million customers, what you're going to do? Only forward customers are going to get the product, but all of the 10 million customers are not. But if you decided to go the other way around, then you're going to subsidize for 10 million customers. There's a problem with that. There's a discount component, which nobody wants to actually talk. So you're actually removing some basically premiums by giving it. We believe that it reduces the loss ratio, but that's a strategic decision that someone needs to make. You need a really high level of conviction and commitment in order to go and do it.
Yeah, just to add a little bit, when we did our evaluation of the market, we started with the thesis of we want to be in home insurance as a partner to a great home insurance company. We looked at a lot of players, and candidly, I think a lot of the incumbents are very focused on other technologies to improve their businesses. Hippo, who really started at a foundational level to think about smart home and to think about a different customer engagement model, was really striking the difference. And I don't think it's necessarily the right thing for every business to focus on right now, but it was very opportunistic for Assaf and his team to say, you know, we see this as a future, let's start here versus kind of build to it later. And that was, you know, something that we thought a lot about as you think about going to millions of homes. How do you scale these networks? And we actually worry about that day to day today. So I think it's an onerous task for an insurance company to say, I want to, you know, deploy smart home to millions of customers, especially if it's not kind of built from the ground up. And that's a big part of even the thesis of our partnership.
And then when you're looking at like losses compared to the industry, you know, what does it look like?
We can break losses on so many components. IoT devices are catering to specific kind of risk in the house. Okay, so in the insurance industry, around 50 to 60% of the losses are catastrophe related, and I haven't found the IoT device that actually stops a hailstorm or hurricane. So we'll focus on very specific things. We do have very strong early signs of success on these things, of stopping some basically leaks and all kind of stuff, and I get probably every day several emails that, oh, this was such an awesome thing, it just stopped a leak in the basement, a leak at my summer house, a leak, whatever, different things like that. When you're looking at the complete losses, you need some time to have the proper amount of conviction that it's not random. The book is still relatively green. There's a clear path, but you know, for me to sit on stage and say that I see a clear, you know, X percentage, it's just, it's not there yet.
But I do think it's not difficult to imagine, one, the technology just enabling the consumer to understand more and be more proactive in their own maintenance, but also two, new service models where insurers and tech partners are really about home protection, about loss avoidance. And this is not only in reaction to an event that may have happened, like a pipe that just burst or a hot water tank that just burst or a fire that may have started while you're not in the house, but it's also around behavioral, it's around time and watching performance of systems. There are lots of interesting IoT technologies coming out where you can now see house performance start to degrade over time and certain systems to have issues. And I think the entire industry will have opportunities to take advantage of this technology and really work with consumers to avoid loss overall. So while the data, it's a nascent field and the data is you know, very small in size, it's not hard to see anecdotally every day you know, these situations. Even people in my company where we're actively testing products, we're constantly avoiding just small personal problems that may have happened without this technology. So it's pretty easy, I think, to extrapolate and show that these losses will be impacted. It's just a question of how big.
Okay. And you mentioned also that you know, the other insurers out there are offering discounted smart home kits to policyholders. What makes your strategy different than theirs?
Several components. One, most, and I can't speak for all, but most of them are doing it as a marketing thing. There's a discount basically on the product itself and maybe some mitigation on deductible and stuff like that. We're giving every customer a discount embedded in their policy, which is quite different. We had to have a lot of discussion with the regulators to basically explain to them why it's not rebating and it's actually beneficiary for the company and it's not beneficiary for us because we're giving you something which costs me money and we're discounting the policy in order to lower the loss ratio in your house and basically save all kind of stuff. So that was a long discussion that we had to do. Another thing which I think it's the right time to actually discuss, our IoT strategy is actually broken into two different components, and it took us a while to best understand that. So existing homeowners need a certain kit of basically DIY IoT devices. So it's small packs, it's different kind of, we're using several companies. We're using now Notion, we use Druce, there's several providers. These are very self-installing components, DIY, you come and you install it. The other stuff is actually when you have a new home builder, and the IoT devices that we're using there are very different. We're using a water shut valve, which, for instance, is something that you need to install, but it reduces the risk in your home significantly because it actually shuts it off if something happens. Now, I can give you a water shut valve, but it's probably going to sit on your counter for 7 years because you're never going to call a plumber. You need a plumber that can connect it, and then it's going to be useless. But what we're working with some of the world's biggest, in the US, biggest builders, and every home that comes from these builders is actually coming fully installed with a lot of these IoT devices, and the tenant in the home are basically getting the broadest discount for these products. So it's a different side of IoT, which we are even more strongly supportive on reducing the price and reducing the loss ratio of individuals.
And the discounts, is that your main strategy of getting adoption?
There's basically three components. One, people like to get a gift. So if I give you something for free, you love it. The second thing, discount and is beneficial. So these are the short-term kind of thing. You get a gift and you get a discount. Over time, you actually see the value of the product because it stopped the leak. It alerted you on a fire or smoke and stuff like that. And then people start to really appreciate it. And in the longer term, if I bring them extra value, like I sent them a plumber, I alerted them that the door is open at a certain time, and all of that kind of stuff makes them feel more comfortable, more safe, more secure, and got extra value added. That's the strategy is a longer thing. It's not just specific points.
So are you able to send a plumber to my house, or
we can do that. It's there's tests and there's stuff. One of the challenges, and that's the honest thing about IoT device, there's a bit too much false negatives now. So I might stop a leak, but it might alert on 3 other leaks in the last several months. And then if every time I'm going to call you, do you want a plumber? Are you going to, what the hell is it a legion for plumbers rather than helping? So we're not there in terms of where the products are and the false negative of stuff like that. But it's definitely a directional thing. We're doing tests, we're doing pilots. The focus is on the customer. I don't want to trouble you. You're my customer. I'm an insurance company. You don't want to hear from me on a daily basis. Every touch point that I have with my customer needs to bring value to the customer. And this is the prism that we're actually looking through. And if I think I'm on the verge of troubling you, then it's not a cost-efficient thing or beneficial for the company, for the customer, then we'll tweak it. I think it would directionally go there. I think with time the products are going to be better. There's going to be more coverage. When we work with Comcast, they have their own 50,000 basically technicians that are working. Can we use them for some stuff? Can they do install? There's so many ways that this thing can go, which we're constantly evaluating.
And would that follow also data that you could share with third parties that might be valuable to them, but also you could find some kind of value add for your company?
We're not in the data business. We're very much in the privacy business and appreciate people's data. The data sources that we're using are public domains. My business is insurance and give the best insurance to my customer and prevent losses from happening, not making an extra buck on selling your data. This is not my business. This is not what we're working on. This is something that we find disinteresting and counter to what we believe in.
But I do think there are opportunities to give the consumer more data about their homes so they can kind of optimize their home environment and use the data however they want. So I think most people live in a world where they get service once something breaks, and that could be catastrophic to an insurer or to the consumer. And I think where all this is heading is new models where we're giving you your data, we're giving you the analysis, you can act on it if you like. We may even incent you to act on it to avoid loss. But it's the kind of environment now where the consumer knows more about their home and has more actionable insight into what they can do and how to fix it. And I think we'll both be service partners to consumers in that process.
And in that example, if it's, I get new data about my house and I see that this could potentially become a problem and I decide to proactively fix it or get it replaced or something, is that something that will benefit me on the insurance side?
So I think there's a complete alignment of interest, because if I tell you that I see a discoloration on the roof and there's a likelihood for basically having, a claim because there's going to be a leak, your number one incentive to fix it is to avoid the leak rather than save $5 a month on fixing it. Like it's less about the 14% discount you're going to get on having a new roof, which is interesting. It's the fact that, God forbid, there's going to be a rain and then you're going to have tens of thousands of dollars in losses, your favorite clothes, your favorite sofa. For 3 weeks, you're not going to be in the home because there's going to be workers working on it. I think it's a decent alignment of interest on these things, and that's what we focus on.
So switching gears just a little bit, looking just at the housing market right now, it is not as robust as it has been, and refinancing, is slower than it used to be. And usually these are the times when people think about their home insurance. How does this affect your business?
It doesn't. It's very negligible for us as a home insurance company. If you have a mortgage, then you're obligated to have home insurance, and if you don't have a mortgage, then you probably should have a home insurance. So it's not that difficult. The fact that there's slightly less purchases of new homes, in the U.S., maybe change the frequency of looking for your home insurance. So slightly less amount of new people that are purchasing, but it's so negligible. It doesn't have a significant impact on us. We're also tiny. Let's put it in the right context. There's, it's a $100 billion industry, and we're not that big yet. So that's not the deltas for us on sales. We have so much other growth coming from so many other channels and different, in the market. So it's less of a focus and an area of issue for us.
Do you have anything to add, David?
Not on that side, nope.
Okay. Well, we're almost 2 minutes till, I think, lunchtime. But the fun thing that we like to do is the overrated, underrated. So let's start with it. Is that all right with you guys?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Auto insurance.
I think it's an industry that is on a massive decline now. Every force of insurance is against it, from the simple thing in technology like driverless cars and shared economy and all of that kind of stuff, to the fact that cars are safer, to the fact that engines are more efficient, so people drive more. There's less. It's a declining. You look at the number of premiums and frequency and severity and all of that kind of stuff. It's on the decline. I think it's something that's needed, but it's as a field in insurance, it's going down. I think from like $220 billion to like 207, and there's a certain decline on home insurance. Oh no, auto insurance. Sorry.
So overrated?
I don't believe anybody rating.
I believe it's underrated in the sense that the opportunity for innovation in the space is huge. Premiums are plummeting. I think it drives an incredible roadmap that we can follow in home. I admire some of the telematics products that are coming in the market right now. There's just so much upside in these, but it's a completely different game than what exists today. And I think if you're in the traditional auto space, you have to seriously question your forward approach and how to adopt to changing trends. But it creates a fantastic roadmap, and that way I'll go underrated.
I think every auto is basically a connected device.
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Directionally unconnected, and this is like the future.
Yeah.
Okay, next, blockchain.
Overrated like crazy.
Yeah, overrated.
Amazon.
Rated? Can I say par? I think Amazon is the most amazing company, on the planet, and I think there's no business that is going to be prone to being, just something being done. I think that of all of the big companies that always people talk about, maybe Facebook going to enter insurance, maybe Google. I think the only one who can enter insurance is Amazon. It's also, insurance is still a business that depends on a lot of people. You need a claim center, you need a call center. You can't automate everything. Amazon doesn't have any problem with throwing people and technology on a problem, which is the complete opposite of how Google and Facebook thinks. So I would keep an open eye on Amazon at any given time.
Yeah, 100% underrated. I think they're a fantastic company, and I think they're willing to take on any new challenge as an opportunity.
And last one, renter's insurance.
As a consumer, I think it's underrated. Everybody should have it, especially for the prices today. As an insurance company, massively overrated. I think you can't really make good business in that, which is why we like a lot of our competitors to keep on selling and a lot of customers to keep on having.
We have 5.5 million renters. We love it. We think renters insurance is another great opportunity, although I think the business model will be very different than home. So I'm going to go with underrated.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you, guys. It was really
Thank you.
interesting.